Hey, I know you wanted to pull up and vibe with positive vibes, maybe. My name is Dante, and this is PVM. Sunday night, 7 p.m. You already know what we about to get into. Hey, so before we get into the shenanigans of this episode, I just want to start off by paying the bills. Shout out to the official sponsor for PVM, T-Shirt Mercenary, AP. How you doing, love? So today's episode is going to be extremely good, guys, because we have two guests on today. Two beautiful ladies. Oh, and both of them are both in the building. What's up, Selena? So we are going to be joined by Selena and AP Blog. Tonight we're going to be talking about parental affection and all that entails. So I'm just going to post up the topic right now, send out a few requests just to get the party started. You know how we do. Also, to buy a few more minutes until Jeide enters the room. He's just setting up as we speak and should be entering at momentarily, for real. But how's the weekend? How's everybody Memorial Day weekend going on? Like, I will tell you guys one thing. This year feels so much different than past years. Just as far as just the vibe that is going around in the city. I have seen fewer and fewer barbecues by the day. Like, our generation, we suck. Someone needs to step up and become that person and be like, you know what? The barbecues are popping off at my place. Everybody grab a bottle, grab a dish. Come on over and let's have a vibe. Let's enjoy ourselves. So we also are trying something new today, where I'm posing a question to you guys, and you have until our final words to answer it. But I'm posting that as well with the topic. That's why I'm taking so long typing today. I'm not struggling like I typically would. Actually, I'm kind of getting a little better. I'm surprised. Round of applause for me for stepping up. For stepping up. Here we go. So this thing is almost typed up, and then once that is typed up, I can bring the ladies in the room. So honestly, ladies, can you send y'all requests in now, and I could just bring you up in. Leash, how you doing? And let me just send this off. Just get these last little requests out, and then we are good to go. So, I will say this Memorial Day has been a lot different for me than years past. Normally, I'm at a cookout. I'm enjoying the vibes. I'm doing something. This year has been mostly laid back. Cooking for the fam. Relaxing. Watching TVs. Just trying to unwind. For real. Stay serene, stay cool, stay laid back. I'm really just stay out of the way. As you guys know, like, the news been filled with a lot of the story pertaining to that mass shooting. So that's been the bulk of my week, just being horrified more and more by the details of that story. So I really need today to be like a good pick me up, And, I'm hoping you guys feel the same way. So I'm definitely going to say, oh, this thing got popping. Oh, let me bring in everybody. So hopefully this take. And you guys, so little by little, there we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
Hey,
Hey.
y'all.
Peace. What's going on?
What's going on, fam?
AP, what's going on? What you said?
What's going on, Debbie? What's going on, Dad?
How's everybody doing? To anyone that's entering the room, how are you doing? It's too many names for me to say them all, but you all are loved and all are welcome to participate in this conversation.
Thank you,
with us.
Michelle.
Thank you.
So what's
Thank
the
you for
energy, everybody?
having
How
me.
y'all feeling? What's the vibes?
I'm chilling.
What's your weekend?
Our anniversary is tomorrow, so we've been celebrating all weekend.
Ooh.
13 years of marriage,
Shout out
17 years of love. So we've been chilling. We did the couples massage thing. We always cooking out every weekend, so it's a regular occurrence here with my family. But my whole entire family lives with me, so that energy is constant here. And I'm coming down to next weekend because we're going to redo our wedding photos and redo our reception because we didn't have one the first time around. So I get to finally get my dance with my dad and all that stuff. So it's a pretty chill vibe week for me. Like I'm very excited and very happy and feeling the love.
That's love. Love.
Yes.
Good to
I
bring the
love
tears out of my eye.
it.
That's some beautiful
Thank
stuff to hear.
you.
Love to
Uh,
hear that. How
I'm not
about you,
doing
Selena?
anything. I actually feel very burnt out. So, I got myself together. I went to have brunch with my mom today. So it's funny that we having this conversation on parental affection because y'all know my mom is a trigger for me. But we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. But other than that, great weekend so far. I worked yesterday. Today has been mainly a self-care type day. So just pouring into me, doing what I want to do, not worrying about what everybody else want to do today, just me. But I wanted to do this, so here I am.
I'm glad to have you.
We really
Thank
appreciate it,
you.
especially something that could be as sensitive as this subject. And we want to commend you as well with, taking that step forward with your mom as well. We salute you and we give you your flowers.
Thank you, love.
Right. And
Thank
Jeide, how
you.
about yourself? How's your weekend unfolding for you, sir?
That baby!
I just have one
Man, send some of that
question.
good Philly food over here. Shit.
Please. I need
Please.
some. I can't wait till next month. I'm going on a fake food tour. I promise you I am.
Yes. Yes.
I
Send it.
promise you I am. The South ain't it for food. I promise you it's not.
I'm in Utah, girl. So pray for me.
Okay, I feel you.
Somebody mail me a stromboli.
Oh, talk about it. Don't get me hype.
Yes. And some water ice. That's what I need.
Facts. I'm going to Maroney's first thing. Got to bring the kids. Got to bring the kids.
Facts. Facts. Dante, how's your week been?
Well, mine's has been
Yeah.
good. Mine's has been real good, guys. Thank you for asking. Really no complaints. Really no complaints. It's just been up and grooving. I've been staying on my purpose, staying on my grind. Things has been unfolding. I just been able to smile. Smile and
Beautiful.
enjoy.
Where y'all L at?
You know what? I've been smoking all day, and I actually made this weed smoothie.
Ooh.
It was my first tutorial with that. It turned out really good. Got a lot of great reviews over here. So that's definitely going on the menu. Oh yeah, guys. So I have smoothies and juices going on sale. Starting June 10th. So definitely not even show support. Just buy from a black man and just buy a decent quality product. So.
Yes. Get it.
Yeah. Congrats, Dash. Congrats.
2 seconds, right? I don't know who Give It To Me Raw is. If anybody knows Give It To Me Raw, let us know right now. But we
I see this.
We ain't tolerating no violation. You dig?
Getting my body
I just
there.
saw that.
Yeah, I just saw that. Good catch,
Yeah.
Jeide.
Thank you.
Because ain't nobody got time for that.
I know.
Mm-mm.
Not today.
Not on Jesus Sunday. Not on my Memorial Weekend. I just felt
And
the
not on
spirit of my
Beyonce's
grandma.
internet.
There was the spirit of my grandma just channeling up within me, But yeah, June 10th, we go live with the smoothies and juices. So definitely, look out for that. And, there'll be more details as we get closer.
Roger that.
I love it. I love to hear it.
Send it my way.
Summer, healthy lifestyle,
Yeah.
trying to take care of us, while also, making sure our taste buds are properly tended to as well.
Right. Yes.
Beautiful.
Right.
But let's get to today's topic, So this topic has actually been something that's been in my back pocket that I want to drop for a minute. And actually, AP, I got to give you a lot of thanks because after our last live that you joined us with, as I was watching playback, I was just thinking to myself, you know what? It's the perfect time to bring this topic. And I need you up here with me. But I love Selena's point of view, and I love, just where she is as a person. So I was just like, this would be just, phenomenal if I can, merge all the worlds together, and bring this to fruition, get so many different, melting pots of ideas and perspectives, because all four of us are so different, but we all share so many commonalities together as well. So I just thought, for perspective's sake, this would be brilliant, with the table full or our perspectives to give, our different takes on how do we feel affection should be given, and what are the effects of the affection we receive from our parents, whether good or bad, because this isn't necessarily the bash, it's really more so just to learn and to understand. Because one thing that has become clear to me throughout my years is that, each generation views love differently than the last generation does, and what was, viewed upon as weak or things you should just easily be able to deal with are, highlighted in the next generation. And I even use myself as a starting point. Like when I look at my nephew, it's hard for me sometimes to kind of relate to him and give him that love and affection he looks and seeks from me. Like, he's real affectionate and he always trying to give me kisses and hugs. And as a boy, it's a little hard for me at times to like kind of wrap my arms around him and give him that hug or kiss. And like, even when he try to give me a kiss, like he'll reach in to try to give me a kiss on the lips, and I know it's from an innocent place. My mom won't let me go there. I immediately turn to the side of my cheek to give him my cheek to kiss, And I kind of don't want that to be like me giving him something bad to hold on to, where years from now that's gonna fuck him up, So I figured, who else to ask but my people, with words of wisdom and share their experiences, and the people of PVM. So definitely, guys, give your opinion, and whoever want to pick up the baton now,
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go. I struggle a little bit with affection. I've seen my change, I'll say that, because I grew up in a home. My grandma didn't like hugs. She did not want you to hug her. She didn't want you on her like that. As I got older, I was like, no, you gonna hug me. I don't care. Because you old. What you gonna do now? You gonna take this hug. But but when I was younger, that used to hurt my feelings. I wouldn't say it because, man, I was a crybaby, but I was a mean crybaby. I would cry because I was mad and like I was ready to mess some stuff up. But it really used to hurt my feelings that my grandma didn't really like, she didn't like hugs. Now my mom was a little too much at times, like, and that made me uncomfortable too. So it's weird. Like now with my kids, when they were younger, when they were babies and toddlers, they was always on me and hugging me and smothering me with kisses and stuff like that, and I returned that. And then elementary school years started hitting and other outside stresses, and I feel like I pulled away some. Now that they're older, or I'll say within the past 4 or 5 years, I have shifted the way I communicate with my children. Like, you guys, I feel like we talked about this before, about how children were meant to be seen and not heard in our households. And that's really how I kind of came up, seen and not heard. It was shut up, or it was stay out of grown folks' business. It was, why are you asking that question? Or you just get the completely blown off or given the runaround. And so I'm a single mom. I've been a single mom of 2 since I was 21, because I had both by the time I was 21. So affection, I've struggled with that. I've struggled with wanting people to touch me. Like, I have moments where I'm just hugging my friends. I love you guys. And I take the hugs and stuff like that. But then for the majority, I'm like, don't touch me. And I think that came from growing up in a house where it was just like, my mom, she only gave me affection, whether good or bad, low key, when she was on. And I'm talking about cocaine, and my mom is an alcoholic. So when she was really starting to feel her liquor or whatever, she's come on and hug me, but it just would be overbearing and smothering and just like, leave me alone type. Why are you like this? So my affection, I did not grow up with a lot of positive experiences of affection. I grew up with a lot of negative experiences. Now with my kids, like I said, in the past 4 to 5 years, I've shifted my thought process and how we talk. So we communicate a lot. And I ask them questions like, because, like sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, you just don't realize how you're coming off or anything like that. Sometimes your triggers take over. And I've had to kind of break down my wall and let my kids in. And that has been like the hardest thing, but I love it because the affection me and them have is completely different from what I grew up experiencing. Like my oldest, she still jumps on me and hugs me, and is like, how the kids are. So, and I love it. I don't push her away anymore, and I love that. So yeah, that's been my experience so far.
That's super relatable for so many reasons. So I grew up with my mom and my dad. My dad, when I was younger, was an addict. Once an addict, always an addict, an alcoholic, drugs. So in the very same way, he was very stoic, take care of the family, very old school, because he was raised by an abusive neighbor. So kids seen, not heard. And so that kind of resonated in his parenting style. And so it was very rare to get a hug or a kiss or any of those things unless he was on. And like you said, it can be overbearing because it's not coming from a space
Yeah,
of
it's not because
what
you
I would
want.
say it's not natural. To me, this is being triggered by your high, right? My mom, she was the polar opposite. She was very nurturing. My mom was nurturing to a fault. My mom, if she could have been, would have been June Cleaver, because that's how she saw herself. She was born in the 50s, right? Through that time, and she grew up in Bangor, Maine, so totally different culture for her. But then you had me in the middle, who was not an affectionate kid. My mom used to. She didn't understand it because all the other kids, my other siblings were, they're all older than me. They were all very affectionate kids. I didn't want hugs. I didn't want kisses. I was very independent. I wouldn't breastfeed. None of the things. Like, my mom was just like, I didn't know what to do with you. You just weren't that kid. You didn't want it. You didn't want it. So when it came to my own kids, I mentioned to Jeide and to Ash last time we talked, I had my daughter when I was 18. And the only reason I poured any affection into her is because I read in those books, like, your first moments of bonding with your children are so important. If you don't do it, it can do A, B, and C. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm already a teen mom. I don't want to jack her up any more than this is gonna, this experience. So let me do what I need to do. It felt foreign. I will not lie. The moment she was in my arms, I remember after because I had a C-section with her, I remember unbundling her. I touched her hair, counted her toes, counted her fingers, and I just stared at it for like 30 minutes straight. Like, what I'm supposed to do with this? Like, this thing just came out of me. Like, and I was struggling so hard to connect. And it was so hard because I started going through postpartum, didn't know what it was. So trying to be affectionate through postpartum depression,
It's like, what the
and
fuck?
juggling parenting for the first time, I felt like I was on something. Like, I was just trying to figure it out. In time, it became easier, and she was an affectionate kid. So she was coming to get the hugs and the kisses, and she didn't take no for an answer. It didn't matter. And with each child, I have three, it made it easier. Now, the interesting thing is both of my boys are on the spectrum. Now, my older son, he's not into touch at all. Like, he hugs me like this from afar. And he pats, like, and he only does it because he knows this means something to mom. So I feel special when he gives me those little pats. But he feels safe in his environment with us. He feels safe enough to come talk to us, and he expresses his affection in a different way. My youngest knows no boundaries. He wants all the snuggles, hugs, and kisses. If he could crawl back in my skin, he would. There's no chill with him. And so having to balance, the differences between all three of my kids has been a learning experience, but I'm grateful that the things that happened to me, the trauma from my youth didn't stop me from being able to learn.
Yes.
It definitely had an impact. It definitely had an impact, even in the beginning of my relationship with my husband, how I showed affection to him. And then even trying to normalize affection between us in front of them. It's been a journey, for the last 17 years, but I'm grateful that we found our sweet spot with it.
Yes.
Right on. Right on.
That's beautiful.
You know,
That's beautiful.
before we continue, though, I'm gonna give it right back to you, Dash. I just seen this one comment that I wanted to bring to the forefront. There was a question that was directed to
I
Selena,
think that.
Yeah, I just see that.
by Von Brown. Von Brown asked, "Do you know how to give love?"
Yes. I feel like I've had to learn, like most people. Like, for a long time, it felt like I'm swimming in the ocean of darkness. For the longest time, when I was younger. Within these past few years of me doing the work, and I feel like communication, like really communicating and letting myself be vulnerable, because it's not easy, like telling people your shit. And I feel like vulnerability and communication played a big part in me learning how to love and how I wanted to be loved. And like looking at my children and recognizing similarities between me and my mother, and actually not judging myself, allowing myself that grace to be like, okay, I see that. I don't want to be like that, because some of those traits that you see are toxic traits within yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted my children to experience the types of traumas and stuff that I went through. So literally I'm always overthinking and overanalyzing low key. If I'm showing my kids that I love them, not just telling them, because it's two different things. Do they see that I love them? And we say it every day, all the time, throughout the day. And when I look at my kids, I know they feel my love, and they don't feel it in a way that's like a scary love, Like, they don't love me out of fear. They love me because I'm me.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Not out of fear. I love that you said that. I love that you said that.
because when they were younger, I was mean, y'all. I was mean. I was like my nickname, Katie Kaboom. Like, I would blow up. So to see where I started at 18 and where I am now at 32, almost 33, is like, I don't even recognize her no more.
As it should be.
That's how it should be. I
Like,
feel you. I feel you.
who's that? I
Yeah,
don't even
like
know.
I think I was a lot harsher at 18, and my daughter is 19 now, and we've had some intense conversations because I understood as I went on in my parenting the impact that I had on her life, and I apologized to her,
Yes.
and I've been able to tell her, like, I hate that it's true, but I don't know if you ever hear about your first child goes through it with you, the
Yes, they
oldest,
do.
because they're like the trial kid, unfortunately. Now I'm the baby in my family, so my mom was far more experienced by the fourth kid versus her first. And so with my daughter, I told her, unfortunately, I was growing up alongside you. I was
Mm-hmm.
18. I was still a child myself. So there was a lot of growing that had to happen. There was a lot of unlearning, like you said, toxic traits, and that does not happen overnight, and it certainly did not happen without some
Especially when you're
accountability,
comfortable.
yeah, there you go, some internal reflection. It took time to get there. So I've apologized to her, and I've just told her, like, I thank you for allowing me the privilege of raising you, and for bearing with me through those lessons that were not easy to go through from a child's vantage point. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was probably, and I realized one of the things I picked up from my mom was being critical. But I'm critical of myself. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And so I think in the back of my head, I was just so concerned with her not being me that I was on, like, very, like, no, you got to be better than me.
Yes.
She kept, I kept saying that to her, and it really painted her into a corner. And it did the complete opposite for her in her mind, in terms of, Like you setting the standards for me, that's too high, like, and that wasn't my goal. My goal was just be better than mom. Don't do the dumb stuff that I did. And just that lack of understanding. And even the way I conveyed love, it took a little bit for us to find our rhythm. So I definitely get it. That being where I was at 18 versus 37 now,
Yes.
like I'm grateful to not be 18-year-old AP
Yes.
raising her kid. Oh, God, no.
Yes.
But do you think
Yeah.
those issues you both experienced was that more the fact that as because of your age at the time of your first kids, or do you just attribute that to like first child experience, like regardless of age you were
All
growing
of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above. I think it was a combination of all of those things. I think having a kid as a teenager, although it's common and we see it, I had her in what, '03. It still was kind of taboo at the time I got pregnant and had her. It was still kind of like this, they send you off to this school called Polly
Yep.
McCabe where I grew up, right? Like you go, my school was one of the first high schools to have a daycare. Now, I personally dropped out because I was so depressed and I was in my senior year and I just couldn't focus on school because I was so disappointed in myself for being pregnant. Now, and that had its own, that brought its own issues with
Mm-hmm.
it. But I think just the combination of still being a child myself and growing and developing, now you're introducing the responsibility of raising another little human, and you have the experience of whatever your childhood was, which you're kind
Mm-hmm.
of still in at 18.
Yeah.
It was a lot to try to juggle all three of those things. I think they all impacted how I raised my child.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Oh man, definitely. I'm an only child. I was raised an only child. And at 18, I found out I was pregnant that November during Thanksgiving because I had been just not going to school. And I felt like I was grown. So I was going to do what I wanted to do. But I knew something was wrong. And I kept having this feeling like I was pregnant, but not wanting to really find out if I was pregnant because I was 18 and I didn't want to be who people were saying I was going to be. Like how my mom was, they compared me a lot to my mom. And since she is the one that raised me, that's who I'm going to be like the most. So at 18, I found out I was pregnant and I was devastated. Like I didn't like break down and cry or anything like that because by the time I was 18, I had grown really good at hiding how I feel. So I could poker face you and say I was fine, but I was not fine. So like their dad, he was hella excited, and I just was like, "What the?" Then I felt trapped. So it was just all of these things, and then raising a child, that part, it scared me, but it didn't scare me because I had been raising myself pretty much since I was 10. So I've been working since I was 11. I used to work and do catering with my godmom so I could buy myself school uniforms when we went to Renaissance.
Yeah.
Nobody knew those things. I didn't bring lunch to school. I didn't even eat lunch at school. Like, I had been raising myself since I was 11. So when I turned 18, in my head, I was going to escape my environment. Like, I was going to get out of Philly and get gone. And then once I found out I was pregnant, I felt like I was stuck and like I was in a prison. So that definitely affected. I feel like I didn't resent Nay when she was born, but I resented being a parent
Yes.
because I
Yes.
felt stuck. And I
Yes.
was 18 and living with my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom, and it was a house that wasn't all bad all the time, but almost every day somebody was yelling at somebody else. There was no real peace. I slept on the couch. People wonder why I could fall asleep on the couch or the floor like that. That's how I grew up. Never had my own room. It was just that all went into how I was raising my child when she was born. And then me not wanting to be like how people said I was going to be. So now I'm just trying to do everything in my power to not be who people say I was. And in the process, you lose yourself trying to be what you think everybody else wants you to be. So for Naomi's first, like 3-4 years of her life, her and Sam saw me and her father physically fighting each other. Physically, him trying to keep me from leaving and all types of shit. Like, she remembers some of that now, and we've had conversations because there are things she remembers. And now that she's 14, damn near, she's about to be 14 in July, now I guess she feels safer to be able to come and talk to me about things and know that, one, I'm going to tell her the truth. I don't believe in lying to my children. Like, when they ask me questions, I'm so grateful that they even thought to ask me, because there's so many kids that don't talk to their parents about nothing.
Yeah.
Because they're fearful. And I was one of those kids that did not talk to my parents about anything. So the fact that she comes and talks to me about certain things, I gotta be doing something right, you know?
She feels safe.
Yeah.
She feels safe.
So I want to.
That
Doing something right.
I want to.
she feels safe.
I want to
Yeah.
ask you, ladies, something that really hit me through Selena's testimony and her narrative right now, and I seen that you resonated with it actually. So, reference to firstborns and not having any type of negativity towards the seed as much as you had towards yourself, walking into a new transformation of self that maybe you were ready for, or maybe you just didn't have any idea that you would be walking into it at the time that you were walking into it. How did, for the both of you ladies, how did reconnecting to, or even connecting to affection looked like within those first few formative years of being a parent?
Um, I will say, I recently learned in therapy that I spent the first formative years of my adulthood in a trauma response stage. Now, the important thing to know is, and I've mentioned this before I got pregnant with my daughter, I was date raped when I turned 17, my birthday. So everything from then on was like this wild ride of me just trauma responding, like on autopilot almost. So finding out I was pregnant, for one, was a shock, because on a technicality, her father and I did not have actual sex. All right, kids, pay attention in science class, right? Um, and so I walked away from that fooling around situation, a little dry, he was in the area, not thinking that I was coming back 6 weeks later with a baby. So it was partially me having to tell a man that I barely knew, because we were cool. He wasn't my man, he wasn't my boyfriend, none of that stuff. So having to tell him that there was a baby coming, and in his mind, like, how, Sway? You lying? Like, it's not my kid. And I got it. Like, I understood it. But then there was this moment of, I don't know what I'm doing. And I had resigned myself to, no, I'm gonna be a single mom, because he was an 8-inch nigga. Like, he might have popped up in this lab. I don't really care. But he's an 8-inch nigga. Like, he was and still is. And I knew, and I mean, he was a child too, and I never held that against him. Like,
Right.
we were teenagers. So in my mind, I somehow knew, like, I'm going to be a single mom. I could see the writing on the wall, and the writing was clear as day, because that's what happened. But I chose to leave because we lived together for all of like 1 month after she was born, because my mom was sick of my shenanigans. She caught me having sex with him in her house, and she was like, enough, bye, out. So I was living with him for like a month. We fought, we argued. He wasn't prepared to get up in the middle of the night, do battles or any of that stuff. Again, me, postpartum 18. We was going to be boxing in there. And immediately I'm like, this is not the life I want to give my child. I went to a shelter. I lived in a shelter from June to November of 2003, and trying to be affectionate, work a job, then be in a shelter with this baby where I'm having to grease the legs of a crib so the rats can't crawl up into her crib at night. Got robbed in the shelter. They robbed me. I had a bag full of sneakers to my name. I got Rob for sneakers, Rob for baby food, Rob, like, so then I'm having to learn this whole new environment. And you got women from all walks of life in this shelter. And it was just a wild ride. Then I got housing. So I'm thinking, all right, me and my baby we're gonna make something of ourselves, and lost the housing because they cut the funding. And then I was told, hey, you got 2 weeks to find an address.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna have to take your kid because you've met the maximum time that you could be in this shelter. So then I house hopped from November to December of '03, and I was losing myself. I was losing my mind, and I feel like the only thing that kept me centered was pouring into her, because it was the only thing that made me feel sane. And then January rolled around. My bestie was like, sis, get on the train, come to Philly. And I did. Literally got on the train January 3rd, 2004, and never looked back. Had 3 trash bags with me, moved to Philly, and never looked back. And that was a wild ride to pick up with my 8-month-old baby. No support whatsoever. No baby dad, no baby dad's family, none of my mom, none of my family, just my best friend in a whole new city. The only thing that kept me sane, which is probably unhealthy when I look back on it, because it really wasn't her responsibility, but the only thing that kept me sane was being able to love on her. So much so to the point, I remember probably around February, after we had moved, her grandmother was like, I'm going to come get her. So so I want to visit with her dad's family. And I was like, okay. And they took her back to Connecticut, to go visit her family. And her grandmother said to me, you're still young. You need to enjoy yourself. Do something outside of what you're doing, which is nothing but raising this baby. And for 2 weeks straight, I laid in the bed. 1730 West Gerard. Okay, I laid in the bed and just cried because I knew nothing else outside of learning how to be her mom. It was like I was struggling to just transition back into a social life and hanging out and being friends. So those first few years of her life, I found my balance, but it took some time because I feel like at some point I was so wrapped up in trying to be that good mom that I couldn't focus on anything else, not even myself. And when I say I lost myself, probably within the first 3 to 4 years of her life, I lost myself seriously, really seriously, absolutely lost myself.
Let me ask you, did either of you two have any attachment issues with your firstborn? Like trying to give them their space as they're growing up and,
No,
you're trying to find your...
I didn't, because I crave being alone. I grew up surrounded by people and not feeling safe. So like I am still working on this, but I still naturally isolate. And I feel like that can fuck up friendships when people don't understand, because I'll completely disappear. And so I did not struggle with, I struggle more with attachment than detachment. Like I can detach easily, but it was hard to let my child in. I did not want her to see me crying. Like I didn't want her to see emotions, and emotions are what make you human. But I tended to hide my emotions. And for the first 3 years, Nate didn't even make it to 3 before I had Sam. So like my story is a little bit different. So like I got pregnant senior year. I dropped out. I tried to come back. And then my favorite teacher at Germantown, I was in AP English, and she said to me, I don't know how such a smart girl like you could be so smart and be so stupid as to get pregnant and not get rid of it. And that destroyed me.
Oh, same.
Because I had no real support at home. My grandma, when she found out I was pregnant, she said, I hope you have somewhere to live before you have it. My mom had no way of giving me anything because she was living off my grandparents. So their dad, he tried, but we were kids. He tried. He definitely, when we got pregnant with Nay, he took the role and responsibility of being a dad real serious, to the point like he didn't want people around her. He was real overprotective of her. And it's weird to see how things turned out, because how they started in the beginning, he did what he could, you know, and he always worked and he always tried to provide and spend time with them. In the beginning, we tried to make things work, but we were young. He has his own story and his own set of traumas that he never dealt with. And so my traumas and his traumas did not make for a real toxic couple. So like Nate would see us together, but a lot of the time it was a lot of tension around us. And he was very affectionate. I always felt like he was too affectionate. Like, you gotta back up. So her first 3 years, I dropped out of school for a year. I don't even think I got my GED until the following year, because I got really depressed. While I was pregnant, I slept on a Chase lounge in my grandmother's room for the 9 months of my pregnancy. So like, I just lived in a really stressful, tense environment. I lived with their dad for a little while. That didn't work out. I said, fuck that. Ended up moving back. And then we would break up, get back together, break up, get back together. So that was affecting how we were with Nay. It was a lot of, he would threaten, oh, I'm going to take them away from you. I'm going to take her away from you. When he would get mad, if I didn't do what he wanted, those were the types of threats I would get. So it was just a lot. And I didn't always work, but mind you, I do hair. So like that's always been one of my side hustles. And I've always known how to do things in general, whether it was like organizing or catering with my godmom, or just little odd jobs. You know how we was raised in the 90s. We was raised to hustle. Like, so I would work on and off. And then Nate was like a year and a half, and I was working at Fridays, Pier 1, and I was trying to go to CCP. And I was living at home. And I was excelling at school, and it was funny because like my first semester, I got a 4.0, and my uncle said to me, that's not going to last.
Hey.
I was like,
bragging.
I just can't win with y'all.
I mean,
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people, like, I wasn't in a hurry to drink and smoke. I didn't smoke. I always used to think smoking was bad when I was younger. I was definitely one of those straight edges when I was a young boy. And so, but I wanted to be sober around my child because my mom was not sober around me. So like, I thought about things like that. Even if when she was a baby, I would snap. I would snap, like yell snap. Not always popping her leg, but snap. My child definitely used to get popped when she was younger. I haven't physically hit my child in years now. But when she was younger, I knew, and it was crazy because I never thought I would be physical with any of my children. And it was like my kid brought out a whole other type of anger if she wouldn't do what I said. So I have control issues, you know? But it took me years to realize that I had control issues, and I know why I have control issues, or because I've worked through those now. So I'm pretty good with that. So how you asked earlier about detaching, I have no problem with detaching. It's attaching. It's
I'm the opposite.
Like
I'm the opposite. Not well. When you said you isolate, so I've been dealing with depression my entire life. So when I was going through an episode, I definitely could isolate with like no question, to the point where anybody who's been my friend for a decade or more, they know me. And it was a struggle in friendships because I would disappear, wouldn't answer the phone, wouldn't talk. Like, people used to show up to my crib on Frankfurt Ave and be like, like, yell up to the window, like, you need to open the door. Like, I'm coming up because you haven't answered your phone. This was before Instagram or anything, so there's no way for them to get in touch. Like, they was having to be like, open your door. But I would definitely isolate. I felt I felt so shamed by my depression because it wasn't talked about at that time for me. It was not something that, I was very open about because I didn't know how to talk about it. And how do you explain to a 2-year-old kid, like, mom's having an episode?
Right.
So I'm sad. It was so hard to cook during those times. Now, my situation was slightly different because by the time my daughter was 2, me and my husband had started dating. By the time she was 3, we moved in together. So now there was somebody else in the mix. There was somebody else in the mix who was now stepping into a parental role, which I was not used to because her father had not been in the parental role at all.
Yes.
So that control, that attachment for me was like, I'm the mom.
Yes.
Yeah, you the nigga. I get it, but I'm the mom. Like, and so it was like this insane need to be able to, his cousin used to babysit for us when I went back to work. I was in school. I was going to Lincoln Tech. I was working at Price Right out in Sea Cane. I was working crazy hours because it was retail.
Yep.
You know how it goes. And I started to feel like I was losing my grip on the time spent with my daughter. And I would come home and like, she was just so excited to be, around Jared. And I think mostly because she was not used to that masculine energy. Like, this was new for her. Now, in the beginning, she told him she was going to kill him on the phone before, because, like, straight up, she was like, before we moved in together, told him, I'm going to kill you. And he told me, and I was like, no, she didn't. And he's like, she did. Because she was so used to me and her being a unit. There was nothing, like, everywhere I went, she went. It was like, it did not matter. When her family would take her to go visit, like I said, I was that stalker mom, like, on the phone, like, what's my baby? I want to talk to her. So I definitely had introducing my husband into the mix just as somebody who was going to be in a, I'm like, we're living together. And he's like, if we living together, like, this got to be a unit. Like, this is not a you got a kid. Like, this is a us now, like us. And I struggled with that. We broke up pretty early on in our relationship. I ended up moving out to Frankfurt. And he was still involved, though. Like, he was still involved. Like, he was like, because now I'm invested. Like, she ain't my biological kid, but I need to, so he was coming by the crib, helping out, babysitting her. I had quit my job at some point, and I took up an unscrupulous job. I used to be an adult fetish model from the time she was like 3 or 4. And so that was a wild ride because I got this kid, and now I'm like the stereotypical single mom, right? Like, you in these streets selling sex. And I just was what it was. And it's, throughout the whole time, I remember thinking to myself, like, how am I going to explain this to my kid one day, right? Like, because this is when things were just becoming digital. Like, I remember most of the company that I worked for, she did all her advertising on MySpace. And so it wasn't like I said, having Instagram and stuff, but these things were in my head. I got invited to do the Tyra Banks show. It was crazy. The producer reached out and was like, we want to talk to you about being a single mom and being an adult. And I almost did it. And then I was like, I don't want this to be the legacy I leave my child behind. And it just so happened that right around the time she was about to turn 5, me and my husband, he wasn't my husband at the time, we got pregnant with my middle child. And that kind of just put things in perspective. And I'm like, I don't got time to be in these streets selling, TNA while I'm pregnant. Like, I can't do it. And he never tripped about it. Did he love it? No, but he never tripped about it. But that need to control even the narrative of what she was going to learn about me was really important to me. So fast forward to now, like probably about 4 or 5 years ago, she's 19 now. So about 4 or 5 years ago, right around the time I started my Instagram page and was linking it with my blog and stuff like that, I had a gentleman send me some photos from back then. And he was like, is this you? And I'm like, nah, nigga, I don't know who that is. And he's like, but that tattoo is exactly the same. Then why you asking? Because why you asking? So I ended up writing an article about it, right? What you expecting to happen, okay? I'm like, did you buy him? Because if you didn't buy him, like, what are we talking about here? So he literally after that happened, I decided to write a blog article about it because I'm like, I don't want anybody else to control that story. But before I did it, I talked with my husband about it, and I'm like, I want to talk to her about it. So when she was about 16, 17, we talked about it. Because I'm like, one day you're going to show up on my blog, and I don't want that to be something you find. And I was just really open and honest with her about it. And I felt like if she sees me be more human, I will lose my parental control. But in all reality, it did the exact opposite. It was like, oh, mom's a human. You know what I mean? Like, and that, sorry, went off. That open conversation.
Oh.
Okay.
That open conversation for us,
all of us, like,
to talk about all this stuff. And because my daughter, she went through some things when we moved down here to Georgia. She went through some things in school. And I realized, like, I've been holding back so much from her because I was so afraid of her not seeing me the way that I wanted her to see me. The more raw I became with her. And I thought some things had to be age appropriate too. But when the questions about her dad began, because he resurfaced in her life, I had to be honest with her. Like, her dad was out here in these streets painting this picture of us being star-crossed teenage lovers. I'm like, nah, let me tell you what really happened. Like, because I don't want you growing up with the wrong perception about teen pregnancy or any of those things. Like, here's the real and the raw of what life was like. Once I was able to open up and have those conversations, even talking to her about my assault and what happened and all the things that happened after her, leading up to her birth, it shifted her willingness to be honest with me. Now, everything she was honest with me about, did I love to hear it? No. Not at all. I don't even follow her on social media. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, I love my daughter. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. But I don't want to see it. Like, she living her life right now. She's living her best 19-year-old life, and I'm just not here for it. So I don't even follow because she grown now. She don't live that long. I can't, because that control part of me, that attachment part of me, is still so very strong. And I don't know. I struggle with detaching from that. So I'm like, if I don't follow, then I can't see it and I can't control. But even when we do speak, there's still that innate part of me that just wants to be able to control what she does. But I realize now, in hindsight, me trying to control so much of what she was doing really led her to just be like, I'm gonna go do me. And she did. And that's painful. And I had to acknowledge, though, like, part of this is your fault. Like, you know, you live and you learn. It's been a wild ride. Yeah. Do I love to know, though, that despite all of those shortcomings, me dropping out of high school, I got my GED like a year after I dropped out of high school with the Job Corps. I did, like, all of the stereotypical welfare mom, the whole 9 yards, like, I did it all. Yeah. And to know that I still managed to raise a pretty well-adjusted young woman who has a work ethic and a hustle that I could be proud of. My husband and I are much more settled than we were when we were dating. Like, I'm grateful even for those less than savory experiences, because they shaped me to be who I am now. And that gives me insight to be a better parent now than versus when I didn't know anything. But that attachment issue was real. Yes, I still struggle with attachment from my baby.
She'll be 14 in July, and then her sister will be 11. I had Sam a week before Naomi turned 3. And she was premature. My due date for Sam was supposed to be October 4th, and she was born July 7th. And she was 2 pounds, a real tiny, palm of your hand baby. And that was terrifying because I was completely alone when I went into labor with her, but outside of Naomi being 2 years old. The way it happened, this is how the universe worked, y'all. My labor with Sam, so that whole pregnancy was stressful because as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I found out their father had a baby with somebody else.
What?
So her brother is 5 months older. She has a brother that's 5 months older than her. And so, like, he took me through some shit with Sam. I walked into girls being in my house, stuff being removed, like I didn't live there.
Got in jail? Says you my hero, because I would have been
I
locked
ain't
up.
that. He got
I would
stabbed
have been
once.
locked up.
But that was an accident. That wasn't on purpose. But we laid hands on each other. The night that we broke up was a couple months after I had Sam. But the day I went into labor, I was feeling my family. Once I had a baby, it was like, you're not a part of nothing. So unless I invited myself, I wasn't invited because I had a kid. And it was like my child would be in the way. But what is y'all even doing? Example, the day I went into labor, my aunt was going to the beach for her birthday. Her birthday is the 9th. It's 2 days after Sam's birthday. And I wanted to go. And they rented this whole minivan and everybody was going. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins. It was a whole little mini family trip outside of my grandmom and my mom. And she called me and said it wasn't enough space for me to go if Nate was with me. So I said, okay. But it was fine because I had been feeling weird. And I was like sewing in a bang, sitting on the bed. It's, July, so it's hot as fuck in Philly. And got the window open. Nay is 2, about to be 3, running around the house like toddlers do. And their dad had just left 2 hours before. And I remember the week before I was in the hospital and I had already started to dilate. I fell down the steps at work. I was working at Fridays in Willow Grove. Fell down the steps at work. They were making me work 12-hour shifts while I was pregnant with hardly any fucking break. The cooks would sneak me food.
Good for them.
But
Good for them.
they would not. Yeah, they was shit when I was working there. So I digress. I had fallen down the stairs a week prior, so I had gone to the hospital. They didn't mop the steps. You know how they got that upstairs, downstairs, and I tumbled. I'm pregnant. And they said I was dilating, but it was too soon for me to have a baby, so everything should be fine. No, everything was not fine. She was like rolling, but her moving hurt. It didn't feel natural. So like it just didn't feel natural the way the baby was moving. And I was starting to freak out. Like my intuition was telling me it was something wrong. And I called him, called their dad. And hello, Antonio, if you watching this, because I see you be watching, but
Shout out to the baby fathers that's in attendance.
Big Papa.
Antonio!
Anyway, I digress. He will be watching, and I know who the people be.
Yeah.
We gonna leave it at that. I called him, and he was like, "They said the baby wasn't coming. You fine? Everything is fine. Why is you acting like this?" I said, "You know what? I'm not arguing with you." Click, hung up. So then I start calling people, and now I'm really starting to freak out because it was getting real painful to the point where I was kind of in fetal position. So I called my grandma, and my grandma was like 80 something at the time. So she couldn't do anything, like she couldn't do much but call people. She called my aunts and them. They halfway to fucking Delaware shore, at the beach. They not turning around. My mom had a prepaid. She didn't have any minutes. I called my best friend. My best friend, she didn't answer at the time. She had strep throat or something. She was sick. I know she was sick or just getting over being sick. But she beat the ambulance to my house. I lived on Collins Street at Nedro and Ogans or something like that. And the hospital was right up the fucking street. Einstein was up the damn street. Broad Street was right there. I lived right there where all the buses was turning. Yeah, like I lived right there.
Nah, I fucking hate
She came to get me from Abington. She drove from Abington to my house and beat the fucking ambulance.
Abington Memorial, better.
Listen,
Well, she don't listen to Abington.
They take me to the closest hospital, okay?
Yeah.
So, listen.
It's an emergency.
Yeah, like, listen, you don't get, listen. So this is what happened. So I called my grandma. My grandma was like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, everything's fine. If you talk to my mom, can you just have her call me?" And she was like, "Okay." So I hung up, called my best friend. She didn't answer. Called her mom, because that's my mom too, as far as I'm concerned. So I called her, and I'm like, "Mom, I think the baby's coming." I'm freaking out, y'all. It's tears by this because I know something is wrong and I don't know what it is. And I'm here and they is still running around and dancing from Elmo and Sid the Science Kid and shit. And
The
so,
science kid, okay?
yeah, listen, I'm looking for my friends. Okay, but I digress. That was my shit.
I still
But
watch it. Don't even care.
I loved it. It was so cute. But yes, she was bopping around and I'm crying on the phone. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong. I think the baby's coming. Da, 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 da. And she like, all right, calm down. Did you have, did my water break? Blah, blah, asking me the normal questions. None of that had happened. She said, okay, I'm going to hang up. She said, Charlene is sick. That's probably why she didn't answer the phone. I'm going to call her. Where's Antonio? I said, I don't fucking know. Called Antonio back after I got off the phone with her mom because she was calling Charlene to come get Nay because she's 2. She can't go in the room, technically speaking.
Yeah.
At this point, Charlene's mom got in contact with her. I think her mom also contacted my mom. My mom was headed to the hospital while I was in the ambulance headed to the hospital. Charlene beat the ambulance to my house. Naomi had to open the door. I couldn't move. I was laying on the floor. The little bang that I was trying to sew in was laying. The needle was laying, like, whacking me in the head. And I'm on the floor trying to cover my stuff because it was hot. I was in a bra. And then you got these male paramedics coming in my house.
Yeah.
And he lucky I was in labor because I would have punched him in his face. The paramedic said to me, "Oh, you probably fine. You probably just having Braxton Hicks." I said, "This is my second baby,
Not the
motherfucker. Don't
audacity of a
tell me what
man.
I feel."
Not the audacity of a man who's never given birth trying to tell you what kind of labor you have. My anesthesiologist did the same thing. Oh, your cramps aren't that bad. Like, because he gave me a bad epidural and tried to act like I didn't know what I was feeling.
Right. I got
The
to the
audacity.
hospital. They took me to triage. I was 8 centimeters. That was 12 o'clock p.m. I got to the hospital at 12 o'clock p.m. I was 8 centimeters. They said, "Oh shit, we cannot stop the baby from coming. Get her to a room." They were coming, as they were taking me out of triage, my mom was coming into the hospital. So now we both going up to
Did
the
Antonio
room.
apologize? I just need to know.
No, girl. We called him. I get to the room.
Antonio.
I get to the room. They have me in the bed, and you know how they hook you up to all the shit or whatever. And I'm like, the baby's coming. I'm 8 centimeters. They got me here. Give him the information. And he starts cursing me out. They said it was too soon for the baby to fucking come. What do you mean? I said, and my mom can hear him. So she took the phone and took that over. And she's meaner than me.
Okay.
So she pretty much went in on him and told him, you can get here to see your baby born or not. But what you not going to do is put my
Stress
daughter's
you
life
out
in
any
jeopardy
further.
while I will knock you the fuck out. Tony, play with somebody else. He got to the hospital a half an hour before the baby was born. And I'm looking at him like, you better not even fucking touch me. They did not have to break my water. This is the karma for that bitch that tried to tell me I wasn't dilated when I knew I was ready. Because I was pushing the button and I'm like, the baby's coming. She's coming. She wants me to push. The baby's fucking coming. And they like, no, you're fine. And by this time, it's only 2 o'clock. It's been 2 hours. She comes back. She checks me 10 centimeters. I said, I told you. Oh, yeah, you can push. Oh, I can push. I pushed. My water broke all over her. It was like a bucket. It was like a... And I was in my head, I was exhausted, but I was like, yeah, bitch, that's what you get. And the second push, the baby came out.
Wow.
I don't
I
care. I feel like
mean,
that was her instant karma. Cause how you gonna tell me? How you gonna tell me?
they
It
like,
was hard.
look, they love to tell women, but specifically Black women, how much we are able to feel pain, and they treat us as if we do not know our bodies. I was in labor for 3 days with my daughter, and they kept sending me home, trying to tell me I wasn't in labor, and I was. She was 2 weeks overdue. They told me I was having a 5-pound baby, and I was just gaining too much weight. My child was 9 pounds when she was born.
Damn.
Mm.
Like, not, they weren't listening to a thing I said my
They
entire
never
pregnancy. That's,
do. That
they
doctor came
don't.
in
They
here.
don't.
It was my mom. I don't remember a lot because I lost a lot of blood. There was blood
Mm,
everywhere. It was like some Walking Dead type shit. But it was me bleeding out. And this white male doctor, huge, all the way inside of me to clean me out after I had just pushed the baby out.
yeah. Been there.
I had no affection to give, y'all.
Mm.
They like tried to show me Sam, but she was like
Right.
a little fucking alien, okay? And y'all know babies be looking like aliens when they be forming in the womb, so y'all not gonna give me that look. But she looked like this little ass, but she couldn't breathe. You know, she was 2 pounds 10 ounces when she was born. And I
Mm,
went into deep postpartum depression after her. I struggled with
of course.
going to the NICU to see her. I struggled with, like, the first time they tried to let me hold her, she fit just right here, barely. Like, it was just, I struggled feeling the connection. And by that time, I was numb from their dad. I hated him. Like, I was hating him. I hated that I tried with him, and I hated that not only did we have one, but now we got two, and now I'm really stuck with you. Not even the kids.
You
It's
ain't
just,
never
Yeah.
stuck.
well, that's how I felt.
I know.
And yeah, and I was like, and I was 21, and I had just turned 21 or going on 22 or something like that. But me and him got into that fight. We got into a huge fight a couple months after Sam was born. So when you asked the question about affection, I was struggling because when Sam was born, Nate had just broken her elbow. Her uncle supposedly fell on top of her. I still don't know the full story because I'm an only child, so this is all his side, their dad's side. But she had a broken elbow, so she was wearing a cast. He was working. The kids is on me, and he's doing him, and I'm 21, and my baby father is bringing stuff home. Yeah, so I had to get treated for stuff numerous times, you know, because
No.
he's out here
No.
fucking random
Mm-mm.
people and not using protection while he's having sex with them. So like I would mentally, it was like I know my kids need to be nurtured and loved, and like I'm trying as hard as I can, but at that time I know I was failing in that aspect of giving affection because I felt like I was trapped. I felt like I was
Plus,
failing.
you, just so you know, everything you just said, uh, like you were going through an incredible amount of trauma all at one time. Baby, you were not failing at anything because most people would have checked all the way out. You were still trying with nothing to give. You were still trying.
Yeah.
That is not a fail in my eyes, like at all, because
I don't know how
no,
to do
that's not a
anything
fail.
else though.
Mm-mm,
I've
mm-mm.
always learned how to survive. I have been surviving since I was 8. So we'll say that. I had a lot of sexual abuse and trauma from 8 to 14. And I don't have men around my kids. Like my relationships are few and far in between because I just don't have that trust for people like that,
Uh,
especially around my kids. We know people are crazy. So like, but when me and their father broke up, it was Samantha came home on a heart monitor. She had sleep apnea and her heart would stop in the middle of the night. So if it would stop, the monitor would go off, and it would be like an alarm, like a real shrill fucking alarm that would go off. And it was Thanksgiving, and I remember he got up butt early. This is before I had confirmation that that baby was his. Okay. I got confirmation because he got a letter to the house from child support. She put him on child support. And he wrote that he confirmed that he was the father without the paternity test. So I opened the letter and read that shit. That's how I found out that that boy was actually his, because obviously I had found ultrasounds, I had found invitations to their baby shower that he hid in our closet. Yeah. He had a whole separate life. He was definitely living a double life. And so by November, I don't even know why I'm trying, but I'm still, well, no, we were going half on our apartment. So that's why I was still there. I was in the lease. Thanksgiving was a disaster. He disappeared for the whole day. He was supposed to help me with the kids to go down to my grandma's house. He showed up after everybody had already pretty much eaten and we was on dessert. And then got there and expected me to fix him a plate. And if people know me, they know my attitude is... So, like, he had the right one. And I'm looking, and I said, are you fucking serious? I'm chasing around a 3-year-old and got this newborn in my... If you don't... Before I... So we got...
Where Antonio?
Listen, we trying to find him. We're in the Where's Waldo, because he done disappeared. But we haven't heard from him in years. So that's it's cool. Since I've been out of Philly, got some peace from him. But I digress. We got into an argument. We got back to the house. He left and said he was going to his mom's house. He came back and it was like 3, 4 in the morning. You weren't at your goddamn mom's house. Why are you playing these games with me? And that's exactly what I said when he came through the door. Like, and I laughed because now I'm like, you unlocked the crazy bitch activated at 22 because who's you playing with? And we got into an argument. I can't, obviously it's been a decade, so I don't remember. But we got into this argument and he picked up something and threw it at me. And I pretty much blacked out. And I know I definitely blacked out because Sam was on the fucking bed. This was all taking place in the bedroom. He was at the doorway. I'm inside the room. And behind me is the closet. And to the side of me is the bed. And to the other side is the dresser. So I'm right here in the middle. And we arguing. He throws something at me. And I blacked out. We were fighting. Sam was crying. Neighbor didn't come home. She stayed at my grandma's house. She wanted to stay. And we're physically fighting each other. He gets me on the ground. I'm like half in the closet, half on the floor, and he's on top of me, trying to punch me. I'm grabbing stilettos and beating his ass in the head and grabbing his penis and trying to break that bitch off because you got the right one. And he starts screaming because he liked to play victim like I was attacking him. And then tried to barricade and keep me from leaving. Because after he finally got off of me and backed up and we in our corners, so to speak, he wouldn't let me leave. He wanted to hold me hostage in the house. And I still don't remember exactly how I was able to get out the house with Sam because I was packing shit and grabbing shit because I'm like, I'm not staying here anymore. My kids don't need to see me fighting their father. That's going to fuck them up more than I need to get the fuck out of here because I'm going to be in jail. Like, I just need to go. I grabbed my keys because he didn't have his license, didn't have a car. He just worked. That's it. That's what he wanted. And that, after a while, that didn't become attractive. It wasn't attractive to me. It didn't seem like he wanted more. He was content with where he was at, and I was never content. I was never content. I always knew it was more out there than what Philadelphia had to offer. And so how I got away from him, I don't remember. I do remember being outside and putting my key in the car, and I had a little 92 Ford Escort. But you couldn't tell me that bitch wasn't my little Porsche when I was 20-something, okay? had my little 92 Ford Escort, and he tried to break my key off and was trying to fight me outside. He only let me go because these big dudes from up the street heard us and said, if you don't let her and that baby go, you're going to have a bigger problem on your hands. And
Can we just, yes, for men intercepting, because that does not happen anymore.
It doesn't.
So yes, for the grown men doing grown men things and intercepting on your behalf, that's beautiful.
They definitely, and I left, and I was like, that's it. We've been done for 12 years, and I'm cool off that because it was so toxic. It made it hard for me to give my kids love and affection.
Yes. You only have, I know we've all seen the quotes about you can't pour from an empty cup. And when I was younger, I didn't understand that because I could burn the candle at both ends. And I didn't realize while I was in the midst of giving from what I didn't have that I was burning myself out. And unfortunately, before I was really fully cognizant of my mental health and how bad it really was, because I learned to compartmentalize a lot of things. It wasn't until I was in the psych ward till my husband was taking me to the emergency room because I hadn't slept in 2 weeks. I was going through a manic episode out the blue. We now know, years later, that it was related to my thyroid, but I was not sleeping. I was having suicidal ideation. I went to the emergency room at Penn. Penn said, gotta give her a 72-hour hold. Stuck me in the back of an ambulance. They took my shoes. And they're like, all right, we shipping it to 8th and Spruce. We'll contact you when, like, they was just like, they left him there at the emergency room. They took me over to 8th and Spruce. I get there, they got to patch down, all this other stuff. And, you know, once they got me settled in my room, it was a sobering moment to be in that hospital because there's no levels of crazy in the psych ward. Y'all together. Doesn't matter. From the person talking to themselves, whether you in there with a mild breakdown, there's no separation from you and them. And okay, it's a big party, okay? And I'll never forget, they gave me like hospital socks. They took my jewelry. I think I had a lighter in my bag. They took that. And as they walked me into my room, I had my own room, but the door didn't lock. In fact, the doorknob was designed so that if you put any type of weight on it, it would collapse. And that was to keep people from hanging themselves. And it was the same way in the bathroom with the towel rack. And then I'm looking at the mirror, and it's not really a real mirror because they don't want you to break the glass and cut yourself. And as I'm just taking stock of where I was and the setup of that room, I'm just like, yo, you really done did it. Like, you really in the mental hospital. Like, you here now. And I remember calling my husband. So you get phone time and all that. And I'm having to sit up on the wall because they have the phone cord so short so you can't hang yourself. So that you have to talk like this up on the wall. And I remember the kids were young. My daughter, she had to be about, she was maybe about 9 or 10 at that point because Jelani was maybe about 4 going on 5, I think. They were somewhere in that age range. And I remember talking to her on the phone and just sobbing uncontrollably because I wanted to be with my babies. And my husband literally telling me, I know you want to come home, but I think you need to stay there. And that hurt my feelings that he was like, you need to stay there. But he was right. Yeah. And then after that 72 hours was up, they talked to me, they talked to him, they said, we know technically you can go home in 72 hours, but we'd really like to keep you while you get on meds. We want to monitor you. We want to make sure this is a smooth transition for you so that you are not back here again. And you also couldn't leave until you participated in group therapy, which I was not interested in doing. Because up to that point, I hadn't really taken therapy or any of those things too seriously. And at that point, I remember talking to the therapist who was doing my evaluation. And by the time she was done, she took her glasses off and she just stared at me for like 5 minutes straight. And she said, I can't believe you're still here. She said, the amount of information you just gave me, most people would have broken by now. And I told her, I think I broke a long time ago, just a little bit at a time. And that is why now, I'm in this space where I was losing it. But it was a big lesson that I never forgot, which is I cannot give to my kids if I'm in somebody's psych ward. I can't give to my husband. I can't give to myself. Like, if I'm not taking care of me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the start of that journey. And that was probably about a decade ago. That was the start of my journey of learning how to unpack all of the things from childhood, all of the toxic relationships. And the crazy thing is a lot of my toxic relationships had nothing to do with my child's father. Like, yeah, he existed, but well before him, I was in a toxic, very non-committal relationship with some guy who was my best friend, like from home. And he was emotionally abusive, manipulative, like the whole 9 yards, and I couldn't even see it. So I was carrying that into having a baby with somebody that I barely knew, and then moving to Philly. And in those first couple of years in Philly, it was like the Wild Wild West, because believe it or not, I was low key in New Haven in Connecticut. Like, I wasn't in these streets like everybody thought that I was. I wasn't. I went to Philly though and lost my mind for a little bit, like, and I would do, like, my daughter never saw anybody, right?
Right.
Because I was very, very careful about, we don't bring niggas around my daughter. Now, I will say I was very blessed because my best friend, all of the people who lived on West Shore at that point had all gone to Temple with her. And they had all, like, moved into these apartment buildings. So everybody knew everybody. She knew everybody from the dorms. And they became community. And every single last one of them helped raise my daughter. And to this day, I'm so grateful to them. It gave me the opportunity to go to work. When I say they all chipped in, these is niggas and young women who they could be living their best life and they babysitting. And, we were a community of young adults, and it worked out in my favor. But when she would go to Connecticut to go visit her family, I took that time to go do me. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of toxicity in that short span of time before I met my husband. And I didn't realize, like, even how I was moving in those relationships. Yes. We'll call them that, so to speak.
Situation
was just coming from was coming from a very toxic place. It just was. And I couldn't blame that on anybody. That was me. That was me. And I didn't even realize, like, I carried it into my marriage. I literally carried it into my marriage, and it made the first, dare I say, 5 to 6 years of our marriage really rough. And it took a lot of internal reflection, a lot of having to be honest with myself, a lot of therapy. And I'm still in therapy to recognize that, like, I recently graduated from my therapist. Not really. She fired me, and not in a bad way. She said, she said, listen, I've taken you as far as I can go, but now you need a trauma specialist. And I literally just finished writing a blog article about it this morning because I never knew there was such thing as a trauma specialist therapist. Yeah. And so now I just met with her for the first time about 2 weeks ago. And she said, now we're to the point where we're ready to start unpacking your trauma and now learning how to move past it. And that's a scary thing. I don't know, for anybody who has not been to therapy, it's not, oh, I'm laying on somebody's couch and I'm telling them my feelings. No, you got work to do. Mm-hmm. And it can be triggering because it opens up so many old wounds. Yes. And I was just like, to this point now where I can do that. But that came from, and the first thing that I thought about, first thing she said to me was like, we got to get at your childhood. Here I am thinking, like, and let me just explain to people, like, my house right now, we got a big house. My entire family lives with me, with the exception of one sister who lives in Connecticut. So when I say it is me, my husband, my 2 boys, my dad, his wife, my mom, my brother, my sister, her husband, their 2 children. We got 12 people in our house. The whole unit is together, which was beautiful for our family just to be in that space of healing. But me also not being cognizant of the fact that it was triggering me and I couldn't figure out what was going on until the therapist said, Miss Ma'am, let's talk about your childhood, and let's talk about why you are feeling these feelings of anxiety. And it's not that anybody is actively doing anything. Me and my dad have repaired our relationship. It's me learning that my mom is more of a trigger for me than I ever realized. And realizing that there are things you are not addressing that need to be addressed. And so be taking that journey now at 37 and realizing that, dad, that affection thing, that parental thing is really, it shapes you.
Yes.
Now, what you do with that is nobody else's fault but your own. Once you become an adult, you literally have the choice to either decide to lean into where you came from or separate from it. And I think for too long, I was leaning into where I came from and not, like, I was so busy just trying to get away from that I didn't even realize I was replicating and repeating patterns of behavior. So now to be in that space of really understanding, my kids need to see their parents be affectionate with each other. My kids are not accustomed to me and their dad arguing and fighting with each other. So if we even look like we about to have an argument, my kids be like, nah. Stop, mom and dad. Like, no, we're not doing that. And I'm like, chill, B. Me and him, we just be going at it. But I also think back to, let me have ever tried to step in and tell my parents no.
Right.
Like, I already know we've done create an environment, which is much, much better for them because they feel comfortable enough to say, you're too loud, you're making noise, and it's making me uncomfortable. Of course, when me and my husband, we get boisterous, we get loud. We're not arguing with each other, but I realize, like, my kids are so sensitive to that because we have accomplished creating that space for them where that's not normal for them. And I'm grateful because it was very normal for me growing up.
I think it was normal for all of us.
Yes.
I think it was just normal. And there was you weren't allowed to say anything. Okay? Like, you weren't allowed to say.
Fresh.
You
get out. You being fresh.
You're talking back. Stay out of grown folks' business. And I'm like, in my mind, I remember I was telling my husband that my obsession with the closet. I have a homie who has a picture of me sitting in the closet at his house before we get ready to go out. Like, my office is literally my closet. Like, it's my safe space. But as a kid, when it was getting wild in my house, I would go sit in the closet on the floor and close the door. And one of the first pieces of electronic that I had was headphones and a Walkman. And I love music. Now, my dad was a DJ, so I grew up on music. I would go in there with the headphones on when it was getting too loud. I would go to sleep in my bed with the headphones on. Sometimes I'd sleep in the closet because I just wanted to get away from the noise and the loudness and how it felt to be fearful all the time, to the point where I didn't realize how much I was carrying that tension in my shoulders and in my neck. And, how I don't think I took my first release of just relaxing my shoulders until I had moved out of state, till I had moved to Philly, and I was in an apartment with my best friend and my baby, and I could finally just breathe. And at the time, I didn't realize what was going on until now. And so I was telling my husband, we went to go have our couples massages the other day and yesterday, and the lady was like really getting up in them shoulders. And she's like, you're very tense. And I'm like, I revert back to that. Like, I'm always in that mode, that trauma response mode. And I'm just like, I'm ready to let that go. I'm ready to just let that go. And I'm just so glad when I'm looking at my kids, I'm seeing a reflection of the work that you've put into this to try to undo. And it doesn't mean that I don't love my parents. It doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for the life that they gave me, but I'm glad to be an adult and understand that I can acknowledge that my childhood was not great, but it doesn't mean that my kids' childhood can't be great. You gotta undo those cycles.
That's a fact.
Yes.
So we're close.
Yeah, we're flowing the 90-minute mark right now.
Yeah. I'm about to say
but before we even round out, before we get both of you ladies y'all flowers because we appreciate y'all so much. This has been a fruitful conversation with a lot of transparency, with a lot of vulnerability, with a lot of heart to it. There's something important that I just want to point out as far as and this could be like my lasting thought as far as the end of this conversation as well.
Actually, I want to switch up the lasting thought for today. So give that point, and then actually, Jeide, you started off too, and I want you guys to leave. How do you all identify love as our lasting moments for today?
Right on. But so there's a thing about affection that I feel kind of akin to therapy. We kind of look at the word as something, and then we have this connotation about it, where it's like all sunshine and rainbows and flowers and all that shit. But there's something that both of you ladies said that's extremely important to what true affection is, and I feel like it's something that we need to keep to heart about, in this honesty. You know what I mean? Selena, you saying that you communicate with your children, you know, in such a way that you facilitate a space of communication with children so that they can speak to you or whatnot. AP, you speak in terms of you being raw with your children and letting your children know where you came from so that they don't get that type of source of information from anywhere else but it brings them to a place where they understand it is not just about the roles of here and you're here. It's about humanizing relationships so that they don't lose respect for you. If anything, that
No, they don't.
they admire you even more, because you know we all feel shame about the things that we live through, we survive through, the things that we look at as shortcomings within ourselves or whatnot. So because we all feel shame about our respective past, it's a commonality, you know. So that definitely connects to true, genuine affection. I just want to salute you ladies and give you ladies your flowers. Thank you so much for being beautiful and wonderful mothers and beautiful and wonderful, strong Black women.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I echo all those same sentiments.
Thank you. I mean, I guess my final thoughts on everything is that affection is an absolute necessity. Even if it is not natural for you, learn it. For the young ones in your life, they need it. That's how they're going to thrive. Dash, I thought about you saying how you kind of, even with your nephew trying to give you a hug and a kiss, it kind of, my husband was not necessarily, he said he grew up watching his dad, you know, be kind of a stoic gentleman or whatever, and so wasn't really big. But to watch him transition from the time my daughter came into his life, he was very much like, you know, you changed her pull-ups, because he was just, you know, like trying to be respectful. But from the time I gave birth to our first son together, watching him every step of the way, change diapers, get up, do feedings, make every doctor's appointment, even when he didn't understand what he was looking at, to watching him hug, kiss, rub noses with them, the whole nine. Like, I am grateful to see that he put his stuff to the side, because he understood that this is not going to make me less of a man if I show my children affection. They're going to thrive more. And when I think about what I wanted most, it wasn't even necessarily the affection from my mom, because she was good with that. It was my dad. That male representation of affection, normally the nurturing, we talked about that last time, comes from mom, but it's just as powerful coming from a man, because only a man is going to be able to show a young man how to be a man. If you can show him a balanced view of what a man is by hanging up your hang-ups, you're going to put him so much further ahead than any other person on the planet could, because you, with your masculine energy, just showing them like affection is fine. And I love to tell people Jesus wept, okay? And so can you. All right,
Yes.
being a man is so much more than this hyper masculine, being a man is being able to be secure in your sexuality and your manhood and still be affectionate, nurturing, and loving, not only to the children who are in your life, whether nephew, nieces, kids of your own, but also to your partner. The affection you show your partner and the affection you show yourself by how you self-care, all of those things matter to the children that you're raising. So remember that. when you are around these children that the influence that you give them starts with you and how you behave and what you do. So be affectionate not only with the people in your life, but be affectionate with yourself as well.
Oh, there. Selena.
I knew it was coming. Final word. My daughter, my youngest daughter, Sam, something I've learned about affection, and she had a rough start to the school year this year. She started a new school and was feeling out of place. And in the beginning, she did not want to communicate those things, probably from, not wanting to be judged or fearful, because we do live in a majority white state, and she's still the majority, the minority, I should say, in her classrooms and stuff. And she pretty much had to start over this year with making new friends. And so she became very depressed. She had some issues or she went through some things with pertaining to suicide. And so we went to therapy for a while, and one of the things that she told me, because remember I told you I can detach easily, and I struggle with my kids, they do it anyway, but I still kind of struggle with that, and I'm still trying to figure out how to open up more, and like how you said, relax. Like, I feel tense a lot, I guess, so it's still a little bit hard for me to accept affection, but that's way off. Anyway, she wrote that she wanted to be hugged more. She wanted, more kisses, and she likes when we cuddle and watch movies and stuff like that. So her communicating with that made me reflect on it more, and, kind of push my stuff aside. We have movie nights, she'll lay up on me, and it's almost like now that I am more affectionate with her, we're closer, and I do like that. So controlled affection. I do kind of want to control it, but I know me controlling it won't really benefit us in the end. So I kind of fight against my control natures when it comes to the affection of the kids. But yeah, I think that's all.
I think I'm in the same
I
boat.
feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
I think I'm
I'm like,
struggling with
that's
the same
all I
thing.
got.
Yeah.
Sorry, but Dash, you got time. Work it out. At least you're self-aware.
Yes.
Yes.
So what you do with that information is what matters. That's all. Like, you don't have to stay where you're at. As long as you are alive, living, and breathing, you have the opportunity to grow and evolve. So do it.
You know
And be
what?
conscious and intentional about it.
And this has been beneficial in that way. Like giving me different perspectives, way to look at it. And just hearing your stories, just making me, just hearing your stories just made me just
Don't
think
make nobody a baby mom neither. Let that also be a lesson.
Well, yeah, that baby mom.
And if you do make somebody a baby mom, you be there every step of the way and support her. Don't question her judgment about her body.
Mm-hmm.
Listen and support. Men, I know, naturally want to take the lead, but when it comes to a mother, pregnancy, all of that stuff, the best thing that you could do is be there
And listen.
and listen.
Fall back. Fall in line.
Yeah.
If you can tell her, do them nighttime feedings, all of that.
Oh yeah, that's all
Yes.
me. That's all me.
Change them
I'm
diapers.
And think about like this. She just went through a world of whatever to carry a baby for 10 months, labor, delivery, however long that takes, sometimes C-sections. You better know you're going to be doing dishes for the next few months. You better know you're going to be doing the cleaning up. You better know that. Let her get a break. She done did all this work. It's your
Yes.
turn now. Baby out the womb. Now it's dad's turn. So let that also be a takeaway. Prepare yourself for that, if you ever decide to have kids.
And it's okay to give your nephew kisses.
With the food
It's
craze.
okay.
Yes, hug and kiss your
Hugs
nephew.
and kisses.
Hugs and
It's
Hugs and
okay.
kisses.
I got y'all.
Thank
Before
you.
I let
I'm
y'all leave, I
awesome.
do need y'all to answer this one question before we hit the 100-minute mark. How do you all identify love? All three of y'all.
Freedom.
You said what?
Love is freedom for me.
Okay.
Freedom.
I'm still thinking Jeide go.
You know what? Because that's my sister, and I like the way that she did that. Love is killing your ego and listening. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Allowing for those who know what they're doing to pass the buck, and for you to take the buck and say, you know what? We're going to make something happen with this. We're going to enjoy the meal that comes out of it. If it ends up charred, too bad. You should have cooked it yourself. But I love you anyway.
Jeide's so smooth, yo. I love
I
him.
always so smooth. Smooth.
He be like, butter.
It makes flick back. I think that love is reciprocity and synergy. And I feel like it's a give and take. And it's a dance. It's a fluid dance between whoever is sharing the love. Mother, child, father, child, husband, wife, man, woman, whatever. Like, it's a dance. And in order to dance that dance, it takes two people to somebody got to be balanced. It has to be balanced. So that reciprocity is important.
I like that. You know.
What's
So
yours?
thank you all for participating in this.
How you not gonna answer your own question though? Like, come on. He was like, all right, y'all, we out.
Right.
What's yours?
Because y'all left it so beautiful, I was just like, you know what? It's
Man,
no
whatever.
All right, so
We listening.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
trying
say love is work, and it's not necessarily a job you may always love doing, but if you're with the right person, you will enjoy the job regardless and find the joys, even in the downtowns. You know, like it's going to be downtown, so it's just a matter of perseverance. You know, remembering why you're here, the reasons you fell in love with this person, holding your morals and the things you hold near and dear about that person to true, and then understanding I'm human, they're human, and some things you just have to scream at each other about. Some things you have to work with each other about. I said some things, not everything, but some things, and the argument doesn't have to be loud. It could be verbal. Sometimes the argument is all verbal. It's just a simple look from across the room where okay, let me get my shit together. And that's love to me.
I love it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Girl, you are amazing. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you. You too. I gotta follow you.
Yes.
Wait, yes. Definitely plug y'all personal information before we hop off this thing. So let the people know where they can find y'all. If anything going. Selena, you still got the poetry book on sale, so let the people know where they can.
Oh, you do poetry?
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm a deal of all
Oh, John, you tell me?
So I make jewelry with crystals. I do homemade soaps. I do body butters. I do waist beads. I am an author. I've written 5 books. Two I wrote in 2015, but recently, this past January, I did a self-love journal, a gratitude journal, and a goal setting journal. And they are all available on Amazon. The link is in my bio. I'm working on another book, hence the name change on my Instagram. So the reason for my name change is because Callisto Moon is a character in the book that I'm writing, and she's dope as fuck. So yeah, that's me. Everything you need to know about me, my link is in my bio.
Back. Y'all can find me at APY Blog. Blog is apyoungblog.com. Link to my bio. You can pretty much find me everywhere there. I am a writer. I am a poet. So I'm actually working on a short story anthology. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the summer. So y'all pray for me. This is going to be my first not my first published book, but solo published, not doing anybody else's work, but we're going to drop it under Soul Genius too, y'all. And like, yeah, that's the pet name. That's how Jeide met me. And of course, I have my beauty business, which is APY Beauty LLC. Y'all can catch me over there. Y'all can catch me on YouTube doing what I do, advocating for chronic illness, mental health, and disability. And of course, being an autism mommy and follow the health and wellness journey and the journey to hip replacement, which is coming next month. But yeah, like I just be in these streets telling all my business, but I feel like you can't learn if you don't share. So that's my whole goal and why I share what I share, even the unsavory moments. So you guys again can just catch me on my page.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. This is officially our longest running live in PVM history. You know, breaking records, you know, on
Because we
Sunday night.
You
live.
have to split this up.
You know, like the viewers have been saying throughout the comment section, this has been like one of our best lives, very poignant.
Oh, I'm
Very
so
insightful,
graciously appreciative of that.
Thank
Yes,
you for,
thank you.
ladies, thank y'all for being so transparent, vulnerable, open, and honest with us, you know. And thank you for like sharing your stories with us, you know, and allowing us to understand and learn from you. You know, I speak for, well, I think I speak for Jeide and myself when I say we both appreciate y'all coming up here and doing that.
Thank you. Absolutely. Anytime. Y'all know how I'll go. Remember, next month, we doing it in person. In person.
Oh, we're going live.
I mean,
we're going live.
We go.
Actually, I'm gonna have to bring you a smoothie for that. You know, like so. That's
please do.
Yeah.
One of them weed smoothies.
Yeah. Oh yes. Well, the regular one for the kids, because you know, regular one for the kids. But, you know, it's my introduction to the edible smoothies. You know.
I love
that
it.
way you don't always have to smoke your tree, you know.
I'm with it.
Well, but you know me, I'm a tincture person, okay? You know, put it in my drink, I'll drink it.
It's gonna be real smooth. It's real smooth. I even gave one to my mom. Big fan. Told me let her know.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me talk to your mom. Because I need my mom to have, you know, she got some inflammation going on. We need to talk about that. How can we get over here?
Yo.
So,
absolutely. Y'all have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thank you again, you guys. I appreciate it. And I'll see y'all on Wednesday, right? That's your next live.
At 7 p.m. Eastern
I'll be there.
Join us. We'll be back again with a new topic. Actually, we got Jeide. I gotta holler at you because I got a topic in the works. But but to the rest of y'all, enjoy your vices. You know,
and thank you to everybody that tuned in. Y'all are dope.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Everybody that tuned in, drop comments. Thank you guys for viewing tonight. Y'all amazing.
And enjoy your Memorial Day weekend too. You know,
it is a holiday.
I'm about to go fake make babies for the rest of the night. You know, like, I'm so okay, this is all I'm gonna do. Like we celebrating this anniversary straight into the morning.
Yes.
Like Jenny look like you about to die. You're like, no, sis, no. Oh man, I had to do it, Jenny.
I feel you.
I love it. All right, y'all.
Good night,
I'm out. Good night.
Good night.